You know, when you hear the name William Wordsworth, you probably think of daffodils, quiet lakes, maybe some rolling English hills. He's kind of the poster child for nature poetry, right? But what if I told you that behind that calm, tranquil image, there's a hidden story of political fire, revolution, and a deep, world-shattering disillusionment? Okay, let's get into this. And that's the big question, isn't it? How does a guy who passionately supported the French Revolution end up finding truth in, quote, "a motion recollected in tranquility"? This wasn't just him changing his mind. No, this was a complete reinvention of his entire worldview, and it was forged in the fire of some serious historical trauma. So let's go back. The year is 1791. A young, super idealistic William Wordsworth lands in France. And he's not just there to brush up on his French. He truly believes he's arrived at the dawn of a brand new age for all of humanity. And he gets swept up almost immediately. This wasn't some passive sightseeing trip. In 1792, he meets Captain Beaupuy, an aristocrat who, believe it or not, was a passionate supporter of the revolution. Beaupuy basically becomes his mentor, and he pulls Wordsworth into the Jacobin cause. By November, he's in Paris, hanging out with radical thinkers like Thomas Paine, the author of The Rights of Man. Wordsworth was right in the thick of it. You can just feel the electricity of that moment in this famous line. For Wordsworth and his friends, this wasn't just politics. It felt like a spiritual awakening. There was this incredible hope in the air, a real belief that they were watching the birth of a fairer, more equal world. And look, his belief was specific. He wasn't just caught up in the vibe. He saw the revolution as a tool for what we'd call popular sovereignty, a chance for regular people to finally take control, to write their own rules, and build a better future. And not just for France, but for everyone. But that blissful dawn, well, it was about to be swallowed by a very long, very brutal night. The ideals he held so dear were on a collision course with a horrifying reality, and it was going to change everything for him. The thing is, Wordsworth got hit with this devastating 1-2 punch. First, the political shock. The Reign of Terror kicks off in 1793, and it just drowns the revolution's ideals in blood. Then there's the personal crisis. War breaks out between Britain and France. This is a huge blow because it cuts him off, strands him in England, away from his French lover, Annette Villon, and their brand new baby daughter, Caroline. And the change in him was, well, it was total. The young idealist dreaming of golden times just vanished. In his place was a man so horrified by the violence that just 2 years later he said he would recoil from the bare idea of a revolution. His political faith was completely and utterly shattered. So what do you do when your grand political vision for the world just collapses? Well, if you're Wordsworth, you don't give up on the search for truth, you just start looking for it somewhere else. And for him, that somewhere else was nature. This is where his poem Tintern Abbey comes in, written 5 years after he had to leave France. It's really the landmark of this big shift. He goes back to this beautiful place on the River Wye and realizes that the memory of it has been giving him tranquil restoration from the chaos of the world, a world that for him was defined by the trauma of that failed revolution. And this is the absolute key to understanding his nature poetry. This wasn't an escape from reality. It was his way of processing it. The peace he feels in the woods is so powerful because it's the polar opposite of the political terror he witnessed. He's essentially channeling that trauma, sublimating it into a whole new philosophy. So as he turned to nature, Wordsworth found this powerful new tool for figuring out the world, one that would become the absolute cornerstone of his poetry: memory. This basically became his new artistic mantra. He famously said poetry takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. The idea is that the raw experience, that's not the important part. It's only later, when you look back on it from a place of calm, that you can really figure out what it all meant. Think about it. His faith in external systems, in governments and revolutions to fix the world was destroyed. So he had to turn inward. He started building a new foundation, one based not on society, but on the internal landscape of the human mind and its connection to nature, with memory as the bridge. But this inward journey didn't stop there. A few years later, he writes another masterpiece, the Immortality Ode, and in it, he takes this whole philosophy even deeper. He's not just exploring recent memories anymore. Now he's trying to grasp the faint, dreamlike memories of early childhood. These are some of the most famous lines in all of English poetry. Wordsworth is putting forward this kind of wild idea that our souls existed in some perfect divine place before we were born, and that being born is actually a process of forgetting that heavenly home. What he's doing is drawing on this ancient idea from the philosopher Plato, this concept called anamnesis. It's the idea that learning is really just remembering. And for Wordsworth, it explains why kids seem to see the world with this magical, celestial light. It's because they haven't yet completely forgotten where they came from. That feeling of loss he feels as an adult isn't just personal, it's spiritual. It's the fading echo of a forgotten perfection. Okay, so if we put these two incredible poems together, we can really see the full story of his transformation. We can see the new kind of politics that ended up replacing all that revolutionary fire. Looking at them side by side, you can see this clear evolution. Tintern Abbey is about feeling. It's about finding a cure for the immediate trauma of his disillusionment. It feels hopeful, finding truth in nature right now. But the Immortality Ode, that's more melancholic. The source of truth is pushed even further back, into these ghostly memories of a time before birth. It's a much bigger, more philosophical look at loss itself. And that's really the heart of it. He didn't just become apolitical or stop caring. He completely redefined what politics meant to him. The struggle for a better world wasn't about toppling governments anymore. For him, it became about the individual's private journey to find meaning and moral guidance through their own mind, their own memories, and their connection to the natural world. Which leaves us with a pretty big question, one that feels just as relevant now as it did for Wordsworth. When our political hopes and ideals crumble, is turning inward to nature and memory just a way of escaping the hard stuff? Or is it a journey to find a deeper, more lasting kind of wisdom? It's a question Wordsworth spent the rest of his life exploring, and it's definitely one worth thinking about.